Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yu-Gi-Oh Everything and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh video. So this is a video type that I have done for I believe every single Yu-Gi-Oh anime where I look at 15 of the strongest monsters that have still yet to be printed in the OCG/TCG. We've definitely done this for Duel Monsters all the way through Zexal and I think for Arc 5 as well. All of those videos will be down below, and in today's video we are going to be looking at the most recently completed Yu-Gi-Oh anime, and that is Yu-Gi-Oh VRAINS, and we are going to go through the 15 strongest, and by strongest I mean highest attack point monsters that are still anime exclusive to the Yu-Gi-Oh VRAINS anime. There's going to be a lot of similarities on this list, meaning a lot of similar archetypes, since there's still a good amount of archetypes in VRAINS that have yet to be printed, and hopefully if you watch this video in 3 or 4 years, a lot of this list will no longer be relevant and a lot of these decks will have been printed. But yeah, let's go. 15 strongest anime exclusive monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh VRAINS. Before we get into the list, I do have to thank today's video sponsor, Into the AM. They are a group that I have worked with for a few times now on the channel, and I cannot say enough positive things about this company. If you don't know Into the AM, they make some awesome graphic tees like the ones hanging there. One of my favorites recently is this one I'm wearing right here. It's just a skeleton surfing surfing on a wave with a skeleton hand. I don't know what's going on in half of these shirts, but it is awesome. I mean, the tees are all so well designed, and I guarantee you if you go to their shop, you're gonna find at least one graphic tee that really blows you away. You can get 3 basic tees for $40 or 3 graphic tees for $60. And if you use my discount code, you're getting an additional 10% off. That is going to be less than $20 for any of these beautifully designed graphic tees. I cannot say enough good things about Into the AM. They also have snapbacks now, so if you're a hat person like I am, definitely pick up one of these. Very comfortable, very clean and awesome. But please go to the site, check them out. Huge thank you to them for sponsoring today's video, and use my discount link in the description for an additional 10% off. You will not regret it. Trust me. So this really is going to be like a top 17 list, because to start the list, we have a 4-way tie for 14th place. And starting that list is Dark Mummy Surgical Forceps with 2400 attack. This is a zombie link monster that requires 3 Dark Mummy monsters to summon it. It gains 600 attack for each monster it points to. When you draw a trap card, you can reveal one of them, inflict 500 damage to your opponent once per turn. If a monster is normal summoned, special summoned, or set to a zone an opponent's link monster points to, as a quick effect, you can destroy that monster. Now, this monster was used by Vyra in her duel against Blue Angel. Unfortunately, this was the only time Vyra ever dueled, so this was the only time we got to see Surgical Forceps. Blue Angel beat over this monster with Bella Madonna in order to win the duel and probably deliver Blue Angel her most important win in the entire story of VRAINS. Tied for 14th, D-Scale Full Metal Dunkle with 2400 attack points. This is a Cyberse Link monster which can be summoned by linking 2+ D-Scale monsters. Once per turn, this card cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect. When this effect is used, you can move this card to a main monster zone it points to. If this card is moved, you can target one opponent's monster in this card's column. That monster is destroyed during the end phase of this turn. I was honestly kind of confused when I saw this monster, because I did not remember D-Scale or this specific monster at all in VRAINS, but it's kind of a fair monster to forget because this was used by Bit and Boot versus Soulburner in Soulburner's debut episode and debut duel, which was episode 49. Soulburner actually destroys this monster in order to win his first of many duels throughout Yu-Gi-Oh VRAINS. Tied for 14th, Battle Drone General with 2400 attack points. The requirement for this Link monster is 2 or more drone monsters. Once per turn, you can target one drone monster in your graveyard, special summon it to your zone this card points to. Once per turn, you can target one level 4 or lower drone monster you control with 1000 or less attack. It can attack your opponent directly. If a drone monster inflicts battle damage to your opponent by a direct attack, you can tribute that monster, inflict damage damage to your opponent equal to its attack. Battle Drone General was Blood Shepherd's main ace, and I believe this was used in every single Blood Shepherd duel. I don't know if there's a character in Vrains that people disliked more from a dueling perspective than Blood Shepherd. I know a lot of people really did not like Battle Drones. I was kind of more indifferent to them. I didn't really like them or not like them, but Battle Drone General was definitely a core of his deck and strategy, and it is one of the 4 monsters tied for 14th on this list. Tied for 14th, Armadas Lego Legatus Legionis with 2,400 attack points. Probably butchered that name. The requirements is 2 or more Armados Legio monsters to make this Cyberse Link monster. Once per turn, as a quick effect, you can target 2 level 4 or lower Armados Legio monsters, 1 you control and 1 in your grave. Send that monster on the field to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon that other monster from your grave. If an Armadas Legio monster is special summoned to your field while this monster is on the field, you can activate this effect. This card is unaffected by your opponent's card effects this turn. This was a main ace of Lightning. It was used in his duel against Blood Shepherd and Spectre. It was not used in his final duel against Revolver, and this monster is credited with landing the finishing blow in that Lightning versus Blood Shepherd duel. I've always loved the design of this monster. It's just a guy riding a horse, and it gives me pretty strong Gaia vibes. So I've always loved the Armadas Legio archetype, especially the boss monsters, and we're definitely not done with this archetype. But that wraps up our tied for 14th monsters. Number 13, Golden Allure Queen with 2,500 attack. This is a Link 3 monster whose requirements are 3 spellcaster monsters. This Link summoned card gains attack equal to the combined attack of all Allure Queen monsters it points to. Once per turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets an Allure Queen monster you control, or when your Allure Queen monster is targeted for an attack while Allure Palace is in a field zone, you can make that monster unable to be destroyed by battle or card effects this turn. Then you can destroy 1 monster your opponent controls. Not a bad effect, but you do need to have quite a few things in order to get the effect off. And this monster is used by Queen in episode 104, her first and only duel against the Dark Ignis. It is a shame we did not see more of Queen. It would have been cool to see more of her deck, but yeah, she really was a very underwhelming character at the end of the day. Golden Allure Queen comes in 13th. Tied for 11th is Metal Baboon, Stalwarts of the Forest with 2,600 attack. This is a Link 2 monster whose requirements are 2 level 5 or higher beast monsters. I think it's fitting that this is the only monster in this entire video that does not have an effect. It literally does not have any effect. Naoki used it versus Ghost Girl, or Brave Maxx used it versus Ghost Girl. Brave Maxx lost that duel, and this monster is, well, pretty underwhelming. Not really anything else to say about it, to be completely honest. Tied for 11th is Helix Marmatroll with 2,600 attack points. This, I believe, is the only non-Link monster in this entire video. So these 2 monsters, which are both tied for 11 at 2,600 attack, are definitely 2 very unique monsters. If there are no monsters on the field, you can normal summon this card without tributing by sending 1 Helix card from your hand to the graveyard. The first time you would take battle damage from an attack involving this card each turn, you do not. It's got 2,600 attack with no defense, and it is the ace of Dr. Gnome appearing in his duel against Go, the first and only duel that Gnome took part in. Tied for 9th, Stormridership Bahamut Bomber with 2,800 attack points. This is a Link 3 monster that requires 2 or more Stormrider monsters in order to summon. If this card is special summoned while you control no cards in your spell and trap zone, you can target 1 card your opponent controls, destroy it, and if you do, inflict 500 damage to them. As a quick effect, once per turn, you can target 1 card in your opponent's spell and trap zone, destroy it, and if you do, inflict 500 damage to them. I would definitely say this is Windy's ace. It was used in both of Windy's duels, his duels against Revolver and Soulburner. Storm Rider ships are not done on this list. Storm Riders are a deck that I really do hope gets printed at some point, and Bahamut Bomber is probably the most well-known of the Storm Rider ship monsters. Tied for 9th is G-Golem Invalid Dolmen with 2,800 attack points. The requirements to summon this Link 3 monster are 2 or more Earth monsters. Co-linked monsters you control are unaffected by the effects of monsters your opponent controls. Your opponent's monsters must attack this card if able. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage to your opponent. When this face-up card you control is destroyed, negate the effects of all face-up cards your opponent currently controls. This monster is definitely the Earth Ignis's ace. He used it against Playmaker and Go, and funny enough, both of those duels ended in losses, as Earth never won a duel, but G-Golem, Invalid, Dolmen, I would definitely consider is Earth's ace monster. Tied for 5th is Tessract Hydradrive Monarch with 3,000 attack points. This Link 4 monster requires 4 Hydradrive Link monsters with the same attribute. If this card is special summoned, you can activate this effect. This card is also Water, Fire, and Wind attribute while face up on the field. Negate the effects of monsters with the same attributes as this card while your opponent controls them. During your battle step, if this card battled this turn, you can make your opponent send one face-up monster they control with the same attribute as this card to the grave, and if they do, this card can attack an opponent's monster again in a row. If this card is in your graveyard, you can pay 1,000 life points, special summon this card, and if you do, double its attack, but banish it during the end phase. Bohman used this monster against Blue Maiden in order to defeat her. Obviously, that effect where water monsters get negated was very harmful to Blue Maiden, who plays a Marinsis deck, which is a water deck. And in that duel, Hydradrive Monarch reached 12,000 attack points, which I believe is the highest amount of attack points of any monster on this list. So that gets a little bit of an asterisk here, since that monster reached such a high level of attack. Tied for 5th is Stormrider Flagship Custom Bahamut Bomber. This Link 4 monster requires 2 or more Stormrider Link monsters in order to summon it. Once per turn, if you control no cards in your spell and trap zone, you can target one monster in your opponent's monster zone, place it face up in your opponent's spell and trap zone as a continuous spell. Once per turn, if you control no cards in your spell and trap zone, as a quick effect, you can destroy as many cards in your opponent's spell and trap as possible, and if you do, inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each destroyed card. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this effect's activation. So as an upgraded ace should, Custom Bahamut Bomber has a much more lethal effect than the regular Bahamut Bomber. Soulburner actually destroys this monster to defeat and ultimately end Windy when he goes up against Windy in what would be Windy's final duel. Tied for 5th is Rousing Hydradrive Monarch with 3,000 attack points. This monster requires 4 Hydradrive Link monsters in order to summon it. If this card is special summoned from the extra deck, place 4 Hydradrive counters on this card, and if you do, this card is also Water, Fire, and Wind attribute while face up on the field. If a player would normal or special summon a monster with the same attribute as this card, they must summon it in attack position. During the main phase as a quick effect, you can remove 1 Hydradrive counter from this card, roll a 6-sided die, and if your opponent controls a face-up monster in their monster zone with an attribute that corresponds to the result, send as many of those monsters to the grave as possible, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the number of monsters sent to the graveyard times 500, 1 being earth, 2 being water, so on and so forth. This monster actually has a pretty interesting fun fact. Every time Bohman used Rousing Hydradrive Monarch, he never lost. He used it versus Playmaker round 3, which ended as a draw, and he used it versus Soulburner, which ended as a win. This monster helping Bohman hand Soulburner his only loss of the show. Tied for 5th is Armadas Legio Magnus Dux with 3,000 attack points. This Link 4 monster requires 3 or more Armadas Legio monsters in order to summon. Once while face up on the field, you can target cards on the field and or graveyard up to the number of monsters co-linked to this card, return them to the hand. If your opponent activates a Link Monsters effect while this card is linked, as a quick effect, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. You can only use this effect of Armadas Legio Magnus Dux once per turn. This is one of my favorite designed monsters in this entire video. It is literally just a dude riding an elephant, and there is something I really enjoy about that. Lightning actually gets this monster up to 6,000 attack points in order to beat Spectre, and it's the final monster standing in his duel versus Revolver. So Magnus Dux definitely, I always view it as the ace for Lightning, handing him that big win against Spectre. and also helping him defeat Revolver using the 1 life point hack. But Magnus Dux rounds out the 4-way tie with 3,000 attack points. Number 4, G-Golem Dignified Trilithon with 3,200 attack points. This Link 4 monster's effect reads, once per turn, when this card declares an attack on an opponent's monster, you can send 1 Earth monster from your hand to the grave. Until the end of this turn, that opponent's monster loses 200 attack. Also, its effects are negated when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a monster you control. As a quick effect, you can negate that effect, and if you do, destroy that card. The Earth Ignis actually tributed this monster versus Go in order to summon Crystal Heart, which was the last move he would ever make before being destroyed by Go and dissected and killed by Soltech. We have a 3-way tie rounding out the top 3 for this list. All 3 of these monsters have 4,000 attack, and they are all very similar monsters. They all appeared in the final Season 2 duel, which was Bohman versus Playmaker. I think Bohman has 5 different monsters on this list, and I really wonder how Hydradrive would do if it ever got printed. But those 3 monsters are Chimera Hydradrive Flame with 4,000 attack, Chimera Hydradrive Aqua with 4,000 attack, and the one monster that makes those 2 monsters possible, Chimera Hydradrive Dragrid with 4,000 attack as well. Dragrid is a Link 5 monster which can be summoned with 5 Link monsters with different attributes. If this card is special summoned from the extra deck, place 1 Hydradrive counter on this card. Once per turn, you can remove 1 counter from this card, roll a 6-sided die, return this card to the extra deck, then special summon 1 Draghead monster from the extra deck with the attribute that corresponds to this result. So, of course, that was Aqua and Flame, and I thought the symbolism there was really good in the anime, since Aqua and Flame were the 2 Ignis that were fighting along Eye and Playmaker at the end, and Eye and Playmaker had to go up against those heads. Later on, Bohman would also summon Chimera Hydradrive Perfectron, but because Perfectron only has 0 attack as a base stat, it was not eligible for this list. But it is important to note that that monster was the final Chimera Hydradrive boss that Playmaker had to defeat, and it did get up to 8,000 attack points in that duel. But guys, that wraps it up. The top 15 strongest monsters that are still anime exclusive in Yu-Gi-Oh VRAINS, and of course in this video, strongest means highest attack. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please let me know, of all these archetypes, which ones you would like to see printed. We had some G-Golems on here, we had a lot of Hydradrives, we had a good amount of Armadas Legio and Stormrider flagships as well. Really a lot of those archetypes, the villain archetypes in Season 2. That was kind of the theme. The villain archetypes in Season 2, Windy, Lightning, Bohman, still have not been printed in the TCG or OCG. I'm hoping, again, if we watch this video a few years from now, that will no longer be a true statement. But let me know which of these archetypes you would like to see printed down below. A big thank you once again to the sponsor of today's video, Into the AM. Please check them out and use the discount link in the description. Thank you all so much for watching. I will talk to you in the comments. And a special thank you to my Platinum tier patrons, Horace Maye, Goosey Q, Panther J, Blue Maiden 28, and Jarrett Buller, and to my Diamond tier patrons, Jesse Wood, Latrell Smith, Fasty, and Erick Avila, and to my Egyptian God tier patrons, MegaWill and Ccapacappuuu. Thank you so much to everyone who supports me on Patreon. I cannot tell you how much it means to me, and I highly recommend you check out my Patreon. It is a link down below. There are a lot of really, really cool perks that you can get if you sign up to be a Patreon, and if you want to go that extra mile to support this YouTube channel. But regardless, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram. If you want to check out the other videos in this series, they will all be linked down below. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day. Take care, guys.